Everybody, Billo Nerone here, Master of Wine. I did get a couple of questions recently about consulting winemaking. What exactly is it that I do as a consultant winemaker? What is this all about? All of that stuff. So I just want to kind of address a few things in regards to that. But very quickly, I am drinking right now our 2000 and 2022 vintage of our Veritas Sequitur Syrah for Rasa Vineyards. I was just doing the winemaker notes on that. So an absolutely phenomenal Rocks District wine. The bouquet of the Rocks District just leaps out from the glass. So as a consulting winemaker, so I've got my own winery with Rasa Vineyards that I started with my brother in 2007, so a joint project. And throughout the years, I've also had numerous consulting clients, Mackey Vineyards, Delmas, Sinclair Estate Vineyards, who else? Ravura, Dossier, Echo Ridge Cellars. And in all of these cases, it's been really, really a fun project working with others to craft a wine that is in their stylistic goals, their artistic vision, and in their quality tier that they are seeking. Now, most winemakers, while they can make a wine, they will not be able to do that for a client. Like if a client came to us and say, "Hey, I want you to make me a Cabernet Sauvignon in the style of Lynch Bage Bordeaux," the terroir might be different, but stylistically, can you get us close to what we get from there? Most of them wouldn't even know what you're talking about. Of the winemakers, wouldn't even know what you're talking about, right? So it really, I would say there's less than 5% of winemakers in the Washington State certainly that could pull off something like that convincingly for their clients. So me, I'm quite confident I could do those things. You come at me with any style of wine from wherever, and say, "Billo, I'd like you to make me a wine kind of in this style." One, I probably know it intimately because I've studied the hell out of every wine region, and as part of the master of wine process, kind of had to learn about everything. So I probably have thought about it. I know about their winemaking techniques that they use, and kind of how to get you from point A to point Z in the finished wine, right? Starting out with the grapes. So most people obviously can't do that. They can make you a wine, but probably in most cases will fall vastly short of the mark, right? So the key thing is to listen to your clients, right? As a consulting winemaker, I do all of the key decisions from fruit sourcing to getting the specific barrels that will get us to the end goal, to developing the winemaking techniques and all of that stuff, and putting my artistic vision on it to get that style of wine that the client desires, right? So I put an inordinate amount of thought actually into that process and take that very, very seriously for my clients. It's not something I could even turn off if I wanted to. That's just not how I am wired. So I do spend a lot. While if you look at like the stuff I'm doing in the cellar and stuff like that, in some respects it may look easy, but all of that thought and all of that knowledge has come to play before the grapes have come to the winery, and I've made a lot of those decisions already, and then fine tune it as that aging and fermentation and the élevage goes, get us closer and closer to that target. So that is kind of what I do, and more often than not, my clients cannot tell me I want this style of wine. They're not able to articulate that. So I sit down and taste a lot with my clients, just various wines from all over the world. And I say, okay, let's sit down and taste and let's just talk about wine. Talk about the wine in front of you. Don't worry about using specific language or anything like that. I will figure it out. And this is what I do with my clients. And we'll get together every few months and just drink some wines. And I say, just start talking about the wines. Good, bad, don't worry about it. And I'm slowly keying in on the attributes that my clients like, right? So in many ways, I get to know my clients' palates probably better than they do at the end of the day, because as a winemaker, consulting winemaker particularly, I would consider a colossal fail if I created a wine and crafted a wine that at the end of the day my clients weren't super happy about, but I was very happy about. Right? That'd be like, whoa, I kind of missed the mark here, because I don't do sales for my clients. wines. I've got my own winery to sell the wines and all that stuff. So I don't do that. So, but I have to make a wine that the clients just absolutely love and can stand behind 100%. Say, yeah, this is our wine. Bill helped us make it, but it's every bit what we were wanting in the bottle. So, that's not an easy task, and it keeps me up at night a lot, especially during harvesting. I can't turn the brain off, and I'm always thinking, how am I going to get there? How am I going to get there? So, but it is a really, really fun project for me because I like nothing more than getting a wine at the end of the day, and the clients are just so ecstatic about what I've delivered for them, and they're taking the grapes, and they don't know the process to get from A to Z, right? But I do. So I just want to talk a little bit about my education. So my undergraduate is in applied mathematics and computer science from MIT. I have a master's degree in electrical engineering, and you're probably wondering, how the hell does that help with winemaking? Well, directly it doesn't, but these type of disciplines and the programs and how rigorous they are, they kind of have instilled a mindset of how to attack problems, how to think through problems, right? Winemaking, is not straight from A to Z. Is You're not going to get that style immediately. You got to be able to work through the problems along the way, think logically. How are we going to address a lot of these things without losing sight of that end goal? And these technical disciplines I just mentioned kind of have enforced that logical approach and methodical approach to the winemaking process. I also have a master's degree in viticulture enology from UC Davis, which is an amazing program. Absolutely loved it. Some amazing, amazing professors, Dr. Bolton, Dr. David Block, Linda Bisson, learn winemaking from them, learn sensory analysis from Dr. Hildegard Heyman, Dr. Waterhouse on the chemistry stuff. I'm just saying, this is these amazing teachers where they literally teach you absolutely everything you can do to a lot of wine, and all techniques A to Z, right? So I can make anything from Sutter Home White Zinfandel all the way to Chateau Petrus. I know exactly how things are handled in each of these situations, or a top notch champagne all the way down to a prosecco, right? So these styles are very, very interesting. So in Davis, we learn absolutely everything, and it's up to us as winemakers to pull from that tool bag to achieve that style that we are after, right? So absolutely love the program. So to be able to do this convincingly on a consulting winemaking basis, it takes a great deal of knowledge, right, to be able to pull this off, right? Like, and this is just something, sadly, most average winemakers just don't have that level of expertise. I do, because I love the topic. I study the hell out of the topic. I continue to study the topic. I drink a lot of wines, right? A lot of my friends just think I get paid just to sit around and drink wines all day. While I wish that was true, there is a lot of actual work that goes into this, right? They just think I'm just lollygagging, drinking wines. That's not true at all. I do drink a fair share of wines. Don't get me wrong, but it is all of they don't see the hard work behind the scenes, right? So I think in all of the technical knowledge is important for sure, because you're going to run into every type of challenge in the winemaking process, from stuck ferments to this and that, to things not integrating properly, possibly too much acidity or too little acidity. How are you going to address this? Microbial issues. There are tons of things that can and do go wrong in the process, and you need to be up to speed on how to handle these things effectively. The flip side of things is the technical knowledge will kind of only get you part way there, right? The rest of it is artistic sensibilities and expression. Can you convey that convincingly through the medium of wine, right? The wines that we are crafting for my clients, let's say Dossier, their Halo tier Bordeaux blend and Cabernet Sauvignon. These are wines that are art, not just, they've transcended beverage, right? And have become these art forms, right? And they're $250 a bottle. Now, does the wine deliver in every aspect for that price? Absolutely doesn't. I can stand in front of a room full of masters of wine and explain why that wine deserves to be $250 a bottle, right? But it is beautifully compelling, technically precise, but also has this artistic expression to it that when you taste it, we're not making wines by the numbers. That you have to experience this, and it will invoke feelings in you, right? But you can objectively see the wine is beautifully crafted, and then the subjective side, those senses take over. Like, oh my God, this is a glorious experience when you're drinking that. And that side, the artistic side of the equation, most winemakers don't even think along those lines, right? They're after just a nice, clean product or whatever they have. But that artistic side is incredibly important, right? Wines that are just made by the numbers are rarely exciting, right? You may have a glass of it, but you're not going to go back for a second glass or things like that. Keep you coming to the glass. Those type of wines made by the numbers don't develop in the bottle, don't develop in the glass over the course of an evening, right? They have no story to tell. Where these wines where you couple that technical detail and the artistic expression, now there's something you can sit with. I kind of call them wines of introspection. They kind of compel your attention. They're showing a new facet in the bouquet every 10, 15 minutes. It's another taste thing on the profile, on the taste every few minutes, and just kind of evolves into the night and just kind of captivates your attention. Those are the wines I am after. Those are the wines I love to drink. So one other thing I will say, if you were to line up 20 candidates for a consulting winemaker and give them a technical test, I am pretty much guaranteed to come out at the top of that of that heap. And that's not just bragging or anything. It's because I literally have put in the time to study all of this stuff to the nth degree. On the flip side, I don't price myself at the upper end of the spectrum, but by choice. I'm kind of at the middle of the road on the expenses, but I think the value I provide is top tier, right? And I think all of my clients would say this, right? So you can talk to any of my clients, former clients, or my current clients dossier and ask them. And I think you would hear the following, or at least I hope you would hear the following, right? That Billo, he has an absolutely amazing command of the technical details of winemaking and viticulture and the process. He's able to take me from the grapes all the way to my stylistic goals for that wine. He's got a phenomenal palate and can get us there. He might be a bit quirky with his love of Spider-Man and mathematics and math puzzles and crazy magic tricks and stuff like that. But he's extremely serious and dedicated to the craft of winemaking. I think you would probably hear that across the board from just about everybody that I've worked with. So let's see what else. I'm sorry, I got a list here. Just didn't want to leave out anything. I would also be caution you as you're going through the selection for a consulting winemaker. Make sure that because I get asked this question a lot. Do you make your clients wines for your clients in a lesser manner than you do for your own projects? And that is a really good question to ask. uh, and once you get to know me, you will really get to that conclusion that it is not possible for me to do that. Right? All of the wines I make, they're my babies. Right? Whether it's for me or for my clients, I make no distinction between them. Really. Right? So there are many, many instances where my clients' wines get rated higher than my personal project wines, and that's okay, right? Because we have different sources of fruit, different oak, different intentions for the wine. Perfectly fine. I would be very, very wary of hiring somebody who always their own personal wines always rate higher than their clients' wines. That means they're just not putting in the effort, putting in, phoning it in, so to speak, to make a wine for their clients, and that's just extremely dishonest, in my opinion. So let's say. a client comes to you and says, "Okay, Billo, I really love Viognier. I love a Condrieu in particular. Can you make me a style in that a wine in that style?" So I love Condrieu. Probably my favorite Viogniers to drink. So yes, right. So we do have vineyards in Washington State where we can get some of that mineral expression, some of that aspect that a great Condrieu has. Now the rest is winemaker. How are you going to achieve that beautiful texture, that intensity and concentration that the a great Condrieu has, like a Vernet, right? How are you going to achieve that, right? It's not just taking any old Viognier and then mimicking the wine process that they do. You have to really think through what is the essence of Condrieu, what is it making that a Condrieu, and how am I going to do this with Washington grapes? Our terroir is different, right? That means the grapes from the vineyards are different, but it can be done. So we do this style very convincingly, I think, for Dossier. If you haven't tasted their Viognier, I think one of my favorite white wines that we make, it is in that style of Condrieu, perhaps a little bit more fruit opulent because we get that in Washington. But that minerality, that texture, if you were to close your eyes and taste that, you're like, "Ooh, this is very Condrieu in character." In fact, I was at a tasting once where we're pouring that wine, the Dossier Viognier, with a lot of French winemakers. They were here in town for this event, pouring that wine, and several of those French winemakers came up to me later and said, "Billo, that Dossier Viognier, absolutely, absolutely stunning." I said yes, I love Condrieu. I said, you did a remarkable job. And we didn't know any better, if we didn't know that was an American wine, it would have flew right by us in blind tastings. And that was like, I was on cloud nine when I heard that from the French winemakers, right? And that was like, oh, what an amazing, amazing compliment to get. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I don't think I have anything to add to that. So the consulting stuff, I take extremely, extremely seriously. I think my clients appreciate that. They are paying for that, of course, and I would never want to let them down. So I do have a couple openings for clients. So if you happen to know somebody that's looking for a consulting winemaker, hopefully at the more upper end of the spectrum for quality tier wines, please connect us. And if I happen to sign them up as a client and all that stuff, and you're the reason for it, I will hook you up with some really, really amazing wines. All right. If you have any questions regarding this, please post them in the comments below, and I will address them. Hope you're doing well, and talk to you soon. All right. Bye bye.